Hi, we're here at Mockingbird Manor in Oklahoma City. I'm with my mom, Lorna English. You can call her Mimi, and she's going to give us a little lesson on blue and white today. I thought, Mom, that we could take some of the pieces that we have for sale and you can tell us about them. You can tell us how to recognize quality in good pieces because there's a lot of blue and white on the market. It's very popular right now, and we need to know when we're shopping for it that we're buying good quality pieces. So tell us what we got here.
Blue and white is timeless. It never literally goes out of style, and it is a wonderful accessory color for almost everything. When people start collecting blue and white, there are a few things they need to know. There are different types of blue and white made in different locations. I would say you can have American blue and white, you could have English blue and white, you could have Scandinavian blue and white, or you could have Asian, primarily Chinese blue and white. But the Asian pieces will be made mostly the same way they were 300 to 500 years ago. Some of them longer than that. The painting on them might not be quite as fine, and the clay might be slightly thicker. But basically, if you're buying from a reputable dealer, you're still getting a handmade piece that's hand painted and well done if it's Asian.
Well, let's talk about a few of the pieces we have here.
This is a new little Asian piece, and you'll see that this is very delicate and detailed drawings.
Now, how can you tell this is new?
Well, I know this is new because I bought it from a Chinese family who still makes it the same way they have been made in the same location for 200 years. But the good thing about this one is the fine detail.
Okay.
Very nice. Now this piece is European, and it has a little small European design, delicacy. It's actually probably Scandinavian.
This is adorable. And even though it is Scandinavian, there is a chinoiserie motif on it.
It is on the outside.
Which I guess that would confuse some people, that they might think
it does.
A piece like that.
You know, after Captain Cook opened the historical market with Japan, there was a tremendous interest in Asian pieces, not only Japanese, but also Chinese.
What year was that?
Well, 19th century. Let's not pin me down on that, please.
Okay.
But because of that, there was not enough Asian produced. And of course, the British and the Europeans got on the same boat, same bandwagon, and began to produce the same kinds of things. So you will find British-made Asian from the 19th century, as well as the actual Asian pieces. This is a piece of Delft. This is probably someplace between 1930 and 1940, and you can see that the detail on it is very nice, maybe 1950. It's very delicate, and most of these pieces will be signed on the back, and you can see that so that's a Scandinavian Delft. I realize that Netherlands, which is where Delft comes from and originates, is not quite Scandinavian, but we'll call it that. You also can see the pieces in the background up here, and most of these are blue willow. Blue willow was made both in Great Britain as well as America, and it was mostly a 19th century piece, and it was largely the common man's china. Some of it is finer with more detail, some of it is heavier, as well as having had a lot of use. The pieces that have a lot of use sometimes have both wear to the glaze as well as crackling in them. That doesn't necessarily change their value. On the contrary, it makes them more interesting. We have a lot of that here. We have 3 little Delft clocks to our right here.
These are cute. The detail on these is exquisite. The hand
you see the little ships and the windmills here, which is a pretty big identifier of Delft pieces.
Now, so one way, yes, windmills, Delft. Also, I feel like the lines on Delft ceramics. Is this a pottery or porcelain? This is pottery.
This is pottery. It's a clay.
Yeah.
And the finer, thinner pieces.
Like that bowl is.
Right. This one is thinner. And this one probably is actually 18th century. It is so thin, and there is some wear to the rim here. This is probably what's called soft paste porcelain. I'm not by any means the best authority on this, but you can tell that the soft paste porcelain pieces wear more easily than the full porcelain pieces, and they'll have a little bit of age on them. Again, age doesn't necessarily change the value. It actually adds to the value in many cases.
It's like the pieces tells a story. It's almost like you can start to think about, what did they use that for? Who did,
Winnie, can you reach this hole right there?
Yes. And I'm also going to go grab a few other pieces I want you to talk about.
This is a mid-century Spode piece.
Here, I'm going to give you one without a tag on it.
Good, thank you. Let me have that one. There are a set of 12 of these. I think these are Copeland Spode.
I think Mimi's a pro at this.
These are called fallow deer. No, I think these may be Wedgwood. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. These are beautiful. These are a full china, and they're just in perfect condition. There's a set of 12. They're a soup bowl, and the color on them is so rich. So they would be an English piece.
It's Wedgwood.
It is Wedgwood. Good. I'm glad I could see that without my glasses. This piece, Winnie, can you hand me the coffee pot or the teapot or
One moment.
one piece? Tricky. I appreciate that. This piece is very unusual. This is an early 20th century piece. It's called calyx ware. My guess would be, I said early, probably 1930 to 1950. So you have the blue and white, but they've mixed it with the other color. And the suite is a dessert set. It is just in immaculate condition. Very, very difficult to find.
Look at that cute little flower.
Mm-hmm. And it works really well displayed with the other blue and white pieces. Then we have these pieces, which are all Asian. This is new. The pagodas, there's a pair of them. The pagodas are produced in the same factory in China in which they've been produced for over 200 years with the same techniques. This piece and this piece are probably Qing Dynasty, that's Q-I-N-G, which would be probably roughly 1870 to maybe 1920 or 1930. So they are old. You notice that sometimes the lids don't stay very well on these, so they're taped on. So these are classic double happiness symbols with the motif. This is a newer one. I would say this was probably produced in the last 30 years, but it has the old techniques to it. Sometimes people will combine blue and white periods and styles. Sometimes the blues are different, so it depends on how you feel about the combination of the colors. If you don't mind mixing the blues or the styles, you can do that. However, often a collection is more effective if you can keep it in the same vein. That means the English and the American blue and white, or the Asian blue and white, or the Scandinavian blue and white.
We have two pieces here I want to ask my mom about. The first one is this. I like things like this because you can obviously tell they're hand painted, and I've noticed that a lot of these pieces come from Portugal or Italy. Can you tell us what they're called and a little bit more about them?
This is a piece of Portuguese faience. That's F-A-I-E-N-C-E. They tend to be a little bit more whimsical in style. Often they can be slightly thicker clay. They are not china, they are a form of pottery. The original faience was tin glazed earthenware. So if you were ever buying a piece, either in Portugal or in Italy, you would want to be sure and confirm that the glaze permitted the piece to be used for food service.
Food safe.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and last but not least, I know what this is. This is some of my favorite, and I think some of your favorite. Tell us about this style of blue and white.
This is an early to mid 19th century transfer ware piece. In this particular case, it was a very light blue, and you will find transfer pieces that are this pale shade of blue all the way to very, very deep blue. And when you find the very deep blue ones, they're often called flow blue, transfer ware. We have a few pieces of that here as well. This one has lots of detail in it, but the transfer has been done with a little maybe worn of the worn amount of the decal because it's a little fuzzy in the picture, just a little bit fuzzy.
But whereas this was hand painted, this they
They-
actually placed a
There you go.
piece of paper or something on top and transferred the design.
The soft blue is so pretty, and very often in these old transfer wares you'll find that.
Mm-hmm.
This one actually has two tiny little flaws here, but these are actually glaze pops, and these were baked in the kiln when it initially came out.
And there is a chip on this one, but if I like the plate, I don't let a chip bother me. I love the story that the wear tells.
You know, when this piece is hung on a wall, like these pieces that are behind us, then you'll see that people don't notice if there's a chip on it.
So it's fun to use and display. Okay, so last question. If somebody wants to get started collecting blue and white, there's a ton out there. And I feel like a collection could get really messy really quickly if you just buy every blue and white piece you find. Because I've done that. Give us some tips for starting out collecting.
I think you have to be somebody who really likes to combine styles and colors if you want everything. Otherwise, to begin with, you might concentrate on a certain style, either that English and American, or the Scandinavian blue and white, or the Asian blue and white. And then after you've collected a little bit of that and you know more about it, you'll be more comfortable with combining or with adding to, perhaps using in a different location. You know, you might put the Asian in a living room space and the Scandinavian or the American English might be in a kitchen or dining space.
But it's fun to group like kinds together.
Right. And colors, you know, again, if people do lots of varied colors, sometimes it works well and sometimes it doesn't. So maybe initially, if you're starting a collection, stay in a similar color vein. Doesn't have to be exact, but similar.
There we go. Thanks for taking the time to explain all this to us today.
Thanks for being my daughter.